What's up, it's your boy Hobo Drobo, and today we're bringing chaos to the lands. I've been crafting some decks the last couple days, and this is the best setup that I've found using the Blazing Gem in Stadium. But before we get into the deck, I did want to mention that right after I lost to an Icecalc player, Ironhide put this in my shop. And I'm not going to buy it because, for me, Icecalc is like Jaeger Black Ice in Rainbow Six Siege. I need to pull him from a chest, or I'm just not satisfied. So that's what we're still trying to do, but I did buy the Barrisad power up because I did already have Barrisad, and I don't feel good about doing it. The value is not great, but I figured Barrisad is probably going to be my favorite dragon regardless, because he's really good with legendary towers when you need that extra gold. So let's hop right into our first match with Paula here, who you can see has a level 12 Archmage, and I've been playing a lot of players with some high level towers. We'll get into some more matches where you can see that. But if you saw my video from yesterday, you'll see that Paula makes one very crucial mistake picking this booster, and that's picking the Bandit Shields over the Farmer. And you can see Paula gives an oops right away because they know that they messed up. And this may be the most satisfying thing you see all day, because it's not every match that you see Blazing Gem get this much value. So we're going to hit them with the good luck because I'm feeling good, and then I'm going to do my normal spell setup. I did start using Lightning again over Sabotage because I just feel like it's so good on maps like this, where I need that initial splash damage, because the Glacial Druid doesn't do a lot of damage. Most of my damage actually comes from Musketeers and the Barbarians, and then the Gem is for just dealing with those high single target HP troops like the Bandit Shields coming down here, and then the Glacial Druid is to slow stuff down. But what your main priority with this deck is just bringing chaos upon these lands. You want to make it so that your opponent isn't having a good time playing the game. And so you can see by the end of round 1, I have a decent amount of towers up, which really helps with Barrisad and that extra gold. And so that's what my initial setups look like for most maps, but also just picking stuff if I need to counter specific boosters. In this case, I was able to put 2 gems down right away, but you're not always going to be able to do that. So your biggest priority in these early rounds is just surviving. And then once you feel like you have enough towers to survive, you can start buying upgrades like sniper shots or getting those gem towers to disrupt your opponent. And you can see here, I got lucky and the Barrisad gets one tapped right at the beginning of round 2. And now I actually picked the dragon booster here because they had 2 mage towers up. And so now once that Barrisad goes down, there's nothing they can do to survive this round. And you are able to get some early wins off people, however you're mainly going to the boss round with this deck. And so I figured I'd just use this game as an example to show you my initial setup, and then we'll go back to back to back on some replays from some boss rounds. The Musketeers combined with the Blazing Gem is just so good. The Destructo Ray and the sniper shots make people so annoyed. You're just taking all of their troops off of their board, and it's really hard to get any defense going when you don't have anything to micro. So if you're going against Blazing Gem, make sure you're picking boosters like Blizzard. If you have a Glacial Druid, try and get that ability up. Go for the Farmer. Even the Smoke Bomb is pretty good. Anything that can stop that beam from getting high damage and a lot of value. And you can see we didn't get the chest, unfortunately, for the Icecalc, but we'll keep searching. And like I said yesterday, I haven't been picking troop boosters that can be dissipated. So like the Frost Harbingers, the Shamans, anything like that, I don't send. Golems, for example. And so you can pick mini bosses because they can't be dissipated, but I've been finding a lot more use out of things like the extra damage. I'm pretty sure I used it in this map. And so I found a lot more value using this deck and the Blazing Gem by picking defensive boosters, because as soon as you place down the gem, you get that Destructo Ray, instantly putting some disruptions on your opponent, so you don't necessarily need those troops on their side. And the beginning rounds are going to be tough because they probably will get a gold advantage, but that's where Barrisad helps. Sometimes I can get extra gold from Barrisad and it evens out a bit. And so just finding a little bit of value here and there when I can really goes a long way when I end up getting to round 6, round 5, and that's where I end up taking out most of my opponents. But there were some learning curves when using this deck, and this map is a perfect example of it. Stardust puts a really good fight up here, doing everything they can to stall out that boss. I'm trying my best as well to use Icy Zone and Stun, but they're able to get some really good dissipates going, and my biggest mistake here is that I'm using the Stun and the Icy Zone on the boss, but I do it too much. And so what I end up doing is just I make sure that the boss is farther back than where their boss is, but I also had to make sure I was paying attention to those other troops on that bottom lane that we're going through right now. And since I used too many spells stalling the boss, it made it so that the other ones got through, and I ended up losing a game that I feel like I should have won. and this is a good example of showing that one small blunder can go a long way in determining a match. I used that Icy Zone on the boss, and I should have used it on the troops at the bottom. I knew right after I had done it that I had messed up, because look how much farther back my boss is from where Stardust is here. It's obvious that I don't need to stall the boss out any longer, and I just needed to pay attention to those dissipated troops. I also missed the micro of my Barbarian to stop that little guy from going through, and I end up losing the game. But very well played, Stardust, staying resilient throughout the entire match, and we did play each other a few times, where each time we played each other, the outcome was very close, which was very fun. And I'll give a little bit more credit to Stardust here because this map is really difficult for Archmage players. From experience, I just feel like there's not many places I can put them. Unless my opponent sends like stone flying golems, I actually feel like those are really easy to take out if you put them in those two middle spots. But I think that if they had placed another Musketeer tower instead of that Tesla next to the other one, it probably would have gotten them more value. You can see they're going to really struggle with this Thunderbird going through, and the Tesla just wasn't enough to be able to deal with everything. And on top of that, it's going to be really difficult for him to deal with all the pressure that I'm putting on his troops with sniper shots and the Destructo Ray. But I like putting a lot of Barbarians on this map because they're just so good at dealing with things that go by on the ground as well as all the stragglers in the air. The troop paths in this map are so weird and it's very annoying to deal with. And so even though we had an Ice Cult slowing down my Barbarians, I still decided to go for them because they just give you so much value. So GG Stardust, great matches. Now Dina here, going crazy with a level 13 Hunter Outpost and a level 12 Arcane, although I really like the concept of the Hunter Outpost, but it's just not really good in practice. It does have some of the highest DPS, I'm pretty sure, but I feel like the Eagle mechanic and just overall how it behaves is not very good, and there's probably better options. You can see it's really going to struggle with this Thunderbird, and you'd hope that for something that you're going to have as your Archer Tower, basically, you want it to take care of the Thunderbird. And the fact that I can't do that, I feel like it needs to be reworked somehow. Maybe that's just not how you're supposed to utilize it, and you're supposed to use ground barracks like the Barbarians or the Archery Scouts to deal with the Thunderbirds coming through, and then the Hunter Outpost is more for other stuff, but I'm just not sure. I haven't really played it that much either. But you can see like the Destructo Ray is just going to completely take out their Allura here. And they had a level 11 Allura too, which is pretty crazy. But by no means am I actually beating this guy. They're going crazy. And don't underestimate the value from the Shrapnel Shot that I just got there. Shrapnel Shot is the biggest lifesaver in this deck. And then with Sniper Shots gunning down the Allura, like it's the main reason I'm able to use something like the Glacial Druid over the Dwarven Artillery. So good try, Dina. I like seeing somebody try to use the Hunter Outpost, but they just got to do something to that tower to make it better. And I was able to get 41 medals from that match, which was huge and actually ended up boosting me to the top of the US leaderboards, although it wasn't updated at the time, so I don't think I was actually number one, but I was pretty close. So I've actually been able to climb with this deck pretty nicely. And here's another match from today, where it's another Archmage player, and this guy actually reached out saying GG's after, so GG's, man, this was an awesome match. And I really liked that they used the Dwarp over something like the Dwarven Artillery. The Dwarp is sneaky in those later rounds, because when you can disable your opponent's towers, you're getting a lot of value. And the Dwarven Artillery also has that Tar Missile, but the Tar Missile has to have something that it can target, and so the Dwarp being able to bypass that does give it a little bit of an upper hand in that case. But since discovering this deck and trying it out, I feel like it's pretty balanced, and I feel like we're going to see a lot of troop boosters be pushed out of the meta this season, and we're going to see a lot of the underused boosters in last season become a lot stronger. So let me know what you guys think. The ending of this match is kind of how most of these Archmage matchups go. I'm not usually able to get enough damage to deal with everything, but at least I have Icy Zones. You can see there I used Icy Zone in the bottom lane instead of stalling the boss, and that play alone is probably what won me this match. I wouldn't have been able to stop everything coming through there. There's just too much, and so I'm able to Icy Zone it, I'm able to stun it, and then the boss is already so much farther on their end than it was for mine that it didn't matter. And because there's so much disruption, I've only had 1 or 2 matches actually killing the boss. GG Daddy Joe, good try, and he was slightly underleveled here, so he definitely put up a good fight. And let's look at one more layout, because why not? I really like this layout for the strategy on this map, and I usually have Barricade starting at that bottom left portal. I'm able to use Icy Zone, put the Glacial Druid there, and get a lot of damage on everything coming out of that portal right away. and then everything coming from the right portal usually just gets cleaned up by every single other tower until I need to move Barrisad to the middle choke point. So, a lot of good ways to get value on this map. One of my favorites for sure, and you can see by not sending him anything that he could dissipate, he had to only place Dwarven Artillery, and it still wasn't enough. So thanks for watching, good luck bringing chaos to these lands, and I'll catch you in the next match. Peace out.